All right, let's just jump right in. Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're unpacking this beautifully rich cinematic folktale. It's actually a classic from the CBSE Grade 7 curriculum. We're talking ancient forests, a little bit of magic, and this huge epic quest for universal truth. If you've ever found yourself wondering about the actual, hidden power of giving, this one's gonna absolutely hook you.
But before we get into the wild journey, we kind of have to lay the groundwork with this one core concept, Annadaana. The word itself is pretty straightforward. Anna means food, and dana means charity. Simple, right? But in this culture, it's not just, tossing someone half a sandwich you didn't finish. It's seen as this incredibly sacred virtue. It's a deep act of divine compassion that carries some serious spiritual weight.
So that brings us to our hero, a really humble kid named Huduga. Huduga and his mom are practically penniless. They literally sweep floors just to survive. But here's the thing, no matter how little they have, his mom absolutely insists on sharing whatever tiny bit of food they scrape together with anyone who begs at their door. And one day, Huduga asks what we'd all probably ask, "Mom, why on earth do we give away our food when we're already so poor?" And her answer? She tells him the merit of Annadaana is totally boundless. But if he really wants to understand its ultimate power, he needs to go ask Lord Shiva himself.
And the crazy part? Huduga actually listens to her. He packs up and goes. And this just shows you the sheer, massive scale of this journey. We're not talking about a stroll down the street here. He has to survive a terrifying pitch-black forest, climb the freezing divine peaks of Mount Kailasa, and then hike all the way to the massive royal kingdom of Nepal. So let's look at that very first leg of the trip, because it gets intense fast. Night falls, and Huduga is stuck in this incredibly dense, brightening forest. He's terrified. He's literally thinking he's going to be a tiger's midnight snack. But right when he's about to give up hope, he bumps into a hunter. This guy's name is Beta. Seeing this poor, terrified kid, Beta takes pity on him and brings him back to his tiny hut to keep him safe.
And this is where the story really grabs your heart. See, Beta and his wife, they're starving too. His wife is actually pretty annoyed about the whole thing, grumbling about sharing their very last scraps with some random kid. But Beta, he completely steps up. He gives up his own portion without a second thought, telling Huduga, "Take my share of fruit and milk. You are tired and hungry." It's just this moment of pure, raw generosity. But Beta's hospitality doesn't just stop at dinner. The hut is super small, so Beta insists Huduga sleep inside where it's safe. Beta himself decides to sleep outside by the door to stand guard. And then tragedy strikes. In the dead of night, a wild tiger actually comes and takes Beta's life. When Huduga wakes up and sees what happened, he is absolutely crushed. I mean, you have to wonder, did Beta's incredible act of Annadaana just lead to this terrible, meaningless end? Definitely keep that question in the back of your mind. So with a super heavy heart, Huduga keeps going. And as he travels, he meets all these other suffering souls who also desperately need answers from Lord Shiva. Like, he meets this king who built a gigantic lake that weirdly won't hold a single drop of water. He even runs into a snake that's stuck in an anthill, can't go forward, can't go backward. And they're all begging Huduga, "Please, ask Shiva how we can fix our miseries." Eventually, against literally all odds, Huduga makes it. He scales Mount Kailasa and is standing right there in front of Lord Shiva and Parvati. He lays out all the questions. Shiva quickly solves the issues for the king and the snake, telling the king to marry his daughter to a good man and telling the snake to give away the magic gem on its head. But when Huduga asks his big question, what is the true merit of Annadaana? Shiva doesn't just give him a straight answer. Instead, he sends him on a magical mission. Shiva literally hands Huduga this divine offering, a special prasada, and gives him these super specific, kind of cryptic instructions. He says, "Go to Nepal, give the pregnant queen this prasada. The newborn baby will tell you the merit of Annadaana." Okay, let's just pause and think about this for a second. Why in the world would Lord Shiva send this simple, impoverished kid to the incredibly grand royal palace of Nepal just to get an answer? Put yourself in Huduga's shoes for a minute. You're dressed in rags. Why would you walk hundreds of miles to a majestic court to talk to a baby that hasn't even been born yet? I mean, that takes some absolute unshakable faith. But Huduga totally trusts the process. He makes the trek to Nepal, and by some miracle, he actually gets an audience at the palace. The queen eats the prasada, and before long, she gives birth to this beautiful baby boy who literally shines like gold. So Huduga steps right up in the middle of this massive royal court, looks down at the baby, and asks, "What is the merit of Annadaana?" And the entire room just freezes in shock because this newborn infant smiles, opens its mouth, and actually starts talking. And guys, here is the massive, mind-bending twist of the whole folktale. The baby prince looks right at Huduga and says, "I am the beta who fed you in the forest. By sacrificing myself to give you Annadaana, I am reborn as a prince." Boom. Beta's ultimate selfless sacrifice didn't just vanish into thin air. The universe rewarded him by elevating him from a starving, hunted man in the forest to literal royalty and his very next life. But the story throws in one last fascinating little detail that really makes you think. The baby prince tells Huduga to look at what happened to his former wife. Remember how she complained? How she was super hesitant to share their food? Well, because her intention wasn't pure, she was reborn in that exact same town, but as a pig. It's a striking contrast, right? It just brilliantly shows that the true magic of Annadaana isn't about the physical act of handing over food. It is 100% about the selflessness, the purity, and the total compassion behind the action. Which brings us to our final big takeaway from this explainer. When we give without expecting a single thing in return, we're really just enriching our own souls. So next time you get the chance to share what you have, whether that's food or time or even just your knowledge, maybe ask yourself, are you just checking a box? Or are you giving like Bidena with an open, totally sacrificial heart? Because at the end of the day, Annadaana is one of the greatest forms of charity because it nourishes life with compassion.